A trial against a controversial Dutch MP known for his strong anti-Islamic views will resume with its original judges. A special panel refused Geert Wilders' request to change what he calls a biased panel. Let's get latest on this story and talk about it in more depth with Euro MP Gerard Batten. Thanks for being on the programme with us. You met Geert Wilders some time ago. You know he attracts notoriety wherever he goes, but what impression did you get of the man when you met him face to face? Is it different from what's portrayed in the media?
Hello, Kevin. Yes, yes, it is. I mean, I met Wilders, I think, about 2006, 2007, and in fact, I went to see. Before I went to see him, I asked people that knew him. You know, I didn't want to have anything to do with him if he was anti-Muslim or racist. They assured me he wasn't. When I met him, I went to The Hague. I went out for dinner with him, and totally dispelled any fears I may have had of that. I think that he's a very intelligent man, very decent man, and I think in his own way heroic, because he's standing up for Western liberal democracy in the face of an ideology that wants to destroy it. So I have no problems with him at all. I don't agree with him on every single thing that he says, but I think you know, he's somebody from whom I have tremendous admiration.
But do you think it's reasonable for a man to use phrases like Islam is the Trojan horse in Europe, or another one, if we stay weak, there'll be no freedom, no room for anything but Islam, no tolerance, no more Sharia? I mean, surely you can see that that would be perceived by many as statements going just too far. After all, he's an elected politician, therefore he's actually talking about some of the constituents that he represents there.
Well, he's talking about an ideology, and I think that's key, Kevin. This whole thing, his whole argument, and I come from it from the same angle, is we're not talking about Muslims, we're not talking about individuals, we're talking about an ideology and a belief system. And if you actually look at that belief system in detail, you'll find that it doesn't fit in with, it's not compatible with Western liberal democracy and free speech. As we're seeing now, this whole thing his trial is a suppression of free speech. What has he said? He's actually talked about the ideology and the Quran as a book. And we're now having a trial because somebody has dared to criticise a book. Now, recently here we've had Professor Richard Dawkins had a whole TV programme criticising Christianity and the Bible, and said, you know, equally strong things, that it was a crime against humanity, and he wanted to arrest the Pope, I believe, when he came over. Now, nobody threatened to kill Professor Dawkins or wanted to lock him up or put him on trial, and he is doing exactly the same thing. He's arguing about a belief system. This is not about individuals, it's about what individuals choose to believe, and what Wilders is doing is criticising that belief system. And I think that, as I said, I don't agree with everything he says. I think most of his criticisms are valid.
OK, well, why do you think politicians are keen to corner a man like Wilders, as outspoken as he is, instead of addressing the deep concerns over mass immigration, which thousands of Europeans say they do share with him?
Well, I think it's fear. I think it's fear of being in breach of political correctness. They're frightened of somebody calling them racist, although it's got nothing to do with race. And it's also a real fear based on the fact that somebody might threaten to come around and kill you. Wilders lives under a 24-hour police guard. When I met him, we went out for dinner. We had 4 armed policemen sitting at the next table. And he lives under that regime now permanently. And he lives in a secret address. Now, what's he done? He's criticised an ideology, and for that he's threatened with death. And I think this is a reason why lots of other politicians are not so keen on it. They don't want to be called racist, they don't want to be called names by the great politically correct elite, and they actually have a real fear for their lives. When Wilders came over to in the House of Lords in 2008, he had an invitation to come over from Lord Pearson, who was then you know, one of UKIP's, well, he still is one of UKIP's peers in the House of Lords. He was prevented by the Home Secretary, Jackie Smith, on the basis it wasn't in the public interest. But the real reason is because it was threatened that 10,000 Muslims would turn up outside the House of Lords and demonstrate against him. That he appealed against that, and he was allowed to come in, and there wasn't any real trouble. And I met him with Lord Pearson in the House of Lords, and we had lunch there, and he showed his film Fitna. And that's what it's really all about. It's about fear of what might happen if people speak out against this belief system.
Okay,
and of course, that way, the belief system gains more power all the time, unfortunately.
Well, just reminding our viewers, this is a story they can follow as well on our channel at rt.com, and also on our YouTube channel as well, and have their say as well about it. I know there are people opposed on both sides of it. Gerard Batten, for now, the member of the European Parliament for the UK Independence Party. Thanks for being on the line from London.
Thank you very much.